So one thing I do get asked is, what is Bitcoin? Bitcoin is a new cryptocurrency created in 2009 by a guy called Satoshi Nakamoto, which we think was just an alias. Essentially, it's a decentralized transactions with no middlemen. There's no banks. It's all anonymous. And you can buy crypto coin on exchanges that are essentially online, just like, the New York Stock Exchange. And this money, this currency that you have, you actually have it in a digital wallet. Think of that as kind of like a virtual bank account. There's a maximum of 21 million Bitcoins that will ever be distributed, ever released globally. Currently, I believe it's at 80% mined, so there's 16.5 million in circulation. How do Bitcoins get recorded? Like, how do you send money from person A to person B? You do this through something that's called the blockchain, and that's what all of these cryptocurrencies are based on, or blockchain technology. Essentially, if you think about it, it's a public ledger system that records all of the Bitcoin transactions. So this wallet A sends a certain amount of Bitcoins to wallet B over here. It's globally distributed amongst a database that's broadcasted to all the participating network nodes. What does this mean? It means that there's computers out there that are mathematically calculating and verifying all of these transactions in order to make sure that the money was indeed verified, that it was transferred from this person to that person. Why is Bitcoin have all the hype right now? I mean, what happened? Well, 2009, it was worth just a penny. 2010, it was worth about 20 cents. In 2011, it had a momentary peak where it hit $29, but the average was below $10. 2012 stayed set $10. 2013 went 10x, went to $100. 2014 was a fun year. That's the year that I actually really got into it. It piqued my interest and I started crypto mining myself. It peaked at $1,000, and then actually after that there was a steady decline. So about 2015 till about mid-2016, we were floating around the $300 to $400 mark. In 2017, we're back at 1,000, and early on in 2017 we started climbing up to a peak of $19,000 US. That was just recently. Right now we're averaging January 2018 around $15,000. We have a total market cap of about 250 billion US dollars. This is what got sexy. I mean, think about those people who mined for fun back in 2010, 2011. It was just worth, a few pennies or whatever, and you could do it with your computer, and then you threw that out to a landfill. I mean, those Bitcoins, some people had hundreds of them at pennies each, are now worth $15,000 each. It's crazy. That's how we had some overnight millionaires. So what exactly is mining? You keep hearing about people who are mining for Bitcoins, cryptocurrencies. It's essentially a reward that was established where special computers, it used to be personal computers, but now we have specialized single-purpose computers that solve complex mathematical calculations to help in the record keeping of all these transactions that occur in the blockchain. Each block contains a cryptographic hash of the previous block in the blockchain. So hence that's why we call it a blockchain. So it's all built upon each other. In this case, we use a hashing algorithm called SHA-256 for Bitcoin and other similar Bitcoins like Bitcoin Cash, which was a fork of Bitcoin. And then as things got more complicated and people wanted to be rewarded with gaining Bitcoins, they started creating these pools. So mining pools were created to bundle together the hashing power of a whole bunch of miners. Miners being, all of these computers with lots of computing power, in order to increase the frequency that they'd get paid out some Bitcoins based on their contributions to working on the blocks. People used to use, as I explained, personal computers in the past to mine, but now they use these specialized single-purpose computers called ASICs. One of the most popular ones out there is something called Antminers by a company in Bitmain, which are in such demand that you actually have to order them 3 months in advance as soon as they're released with the newest one, and they're sold out instantly. Like, it's crazy. So why doesn't everybody mine? Like, why doesn't everybody go out there and decide that, hey, I'm just going to turn on my computer and I want to make some of this money? Well, here are some factors that might come into play. Number one, it's past the point where you can use your personal computer. You actually need a high-end system. You can still use personal computers with high-end graphics cards to mine alternate coins that were created, alternate cryptocurrencies. A very popular one is called Ethereum, and is still currently floating at about $700 to $800 per Ethereum coin. So it's got a lot of value. A lot of the sub-coins are being based against that. Another concern is that when you mine cryptocurrencies, your computers are running at full efficiency, like 100%. The fan's going on it. It's doing a lot of computational power, so that takes a lot of electricity. And by nature of using a lot of electricity, it gives off a lot of heat. So in this case, you could probably even heat, and some people are actually heating their garages in the winter with these miners that they've got set up. The miners are in such high demand, especially the specialized one, like the latest one is the Antminer S9, which is very difficult to buy. So if you go on eBay or Kijiji or anything, people are even buying them and selling them immediately at ridiculous prices, like 4 times what they paid for them, because they're in such demand, and they had to pre-buy them. And interestingly, you had to use Bitcoin to buy them 3 months before they even get the delivery on some of these, and they're sold out right away. The effectiveness of the hashing power is based on how current and how powerful your miner is that you've got, your piece of hardware. And right now it's measured in terahashes per second. That decreases over time because things get more difficult. What I mean by that? Well, there's a mathematical difficulty formula that's built into the bit chain, into the blockchain, where every 2016 blocks that get added to the blockchain, the difficulty level gets adjusted. So the desired time for getting through a block is 10 minutes. And the reason for that was exactly 2016 blocks, 10 minutes, it's exactly 2 weeks. So if the prior 2016 blocks was done in a shorter amount of period of time, because that means that there's a lot of computers online, there's a lot of people mining it, and it was done in a reduced amount of time, then the difficulty of mining is actually increased. It becomes harder, which actually historically, if you look at it, the difficulty level is actually jumping up exponentially. So that's number one. Number two, so you've got this hardware that you buy, and you think, oh, it's being advertised that it's, it's 15 terahashes or 14 terahashes. The Antminer S9, I believe, is advertised between 12 to 14 terahashes per second. That's going to decrease over time because things are getting more and more difficult to mine the Bitcoin, which means that your payout, how much you're going to get paid, is going to decrease. Now, on that note, what helped in 2017 is we went from a $1,000 Bitcoin valuation to a $20,000 Bitcoin valuation. So it made it worth it. Even though the blockchain was that much harder to mine, the price of the Bitcoin, of what you were getting, went 20 times in a year and was very lucrative. So we're not actually sure what the future of Bitcoin is going to be over 2018, but I'll tell you right now, there's a lot of hype and a lot of people are getting into mining. You also have to keep in mind that this is sort of like stock markets. It's very high risk. So, I mean, tomorrow somebody could theoretically manipulate Bitcoin and the price could tank and could drop considerably. It has happened a couple times. We don't think that's going to happen. I believe that things are probably going to settle out. We had quite an adjustment that happened during 2017. But right now, if you take a look at it, I think it's probably still worthwhile for, for some people with the right hardware and the right know-how to get into this. So the question I get asked is, hey David, I'd love to do this mining thing. Should I get into it? Should I buy Bitcoin? I guess my answer is just like what you do with stock markets. The big question is it money that you're willing to gamble and forget about? Like, you are not depending on this. Don't put your life savings into this. It's too volatile. This is something that's very risky. But if this is, if you've got, you know, a few $100s or whatever, I don't know, it depends on what your portfolio is, that you're willing to gamble on, you thought, hey, I'd like to cash in on this and maybe Bitcoin's going to go tenfold again in 2018, then, you know, by all means you can do that. One of the quickest and easiest ways to do it right now is through an app called Coinbase. It allows you to buy the very common Ethereum, Litecoin, Bitcoin. They have a set weekly limit of, I believe, $250 that you can buy up to. But, you know, for people who want to try it out and want to feel like they own some Bitcoin and, you know, that they might do something, that's probably what I would recommend. If you want to get into mining, the dedicated miners, you have to be very careful there. They use a lot of electricity, they cost a lot, they decrease with the amount they're going to mine over time, so they're not going to be as effective. So you really, your return on investment, your ROI, has to be within a fairly short amount of time, like less than a year, that you're going to be able to pay off that hardware, pay off the electricity and whatever it is that you needed to make that work and cool it, and be able to earn enough Bitcoin during that period of time. The next problem that you're going to have is in mining is, do you mine Bitcoin? Like, I mean, we keep talking about Bitcoin, Bitcoin, Bitcoin. To me, that's kind of like the gold standard of cryptocurrencies. Everything's being measured against it. But honestly, there's thousands of other cryptocurrencies that have been created with really funny names, actually, and different purposes. But some of the most common ones and that have established them as a baseline are Ethereum, Litecoin, and Bitcoin Cash. And Bitcoin Cash was a fork of Bitcoin, meaning that it's based off of it, but has gone in a different direction and is now can be mined separately. Ethereum, specifically, I think is really cool. There's some distributed applications that can be built upon that platform. And Ethereum can be mined using high-end graphics cards on, like what, you know, computer gamers use on their computers. And you can actually mine and earn a fairly decent amount of Ethereum, which is another type of cryptocurrency, using a high-end computer. Now, why do I say that's the reason I'm going to say that I think that's a value is because Ethereum, if you're using high-end computers, there's a value to that computer at the end of the day. If you want to do something else with it or you want to resell it to a gamer or whatever, your hardware cost is going to depreciate over a period of time, but it's not like buying a dedicated device that the only thing it can do is mine Bitcoin. It doesn't do anything else. You'd have to be really sure of yourself in that. I mean, you can go and mine other different cryptocurrencies based on the same hashing algorithm, but the Ethereum mining using high-end graphics cards has a bit of sex appeal on that just by nature of being a high-end computer that maybe then you resell it to computer gamer or some video person or some high-end graphics guy because, you know, they're happy with having a computer with a lot of horsepower and a really good video card. So those are some things to think about is what exactly are you investing in this? What is it going to cost? Do not discount the amount of power that this takes. It's considerable, and the amount of heat that it's going to give off. Great in the winter months for people who live in cold climates, but you're going to have to deal with cooling when it comes to, you know, summertime when the sun is beating on you and you've got this extra heat that's being generated and you've got to dissipate all of that additional heat. So keep those factors in mind.